Okay, here we are at the section number 5 of presenting research findings, in which we're going to talk about the statistics and publication process. So we have reviewed the abstract, the body of the manuscript, and how to present our statistics in a manuscript. Now we are going to talk about the statistics and the publication process. So what are actually the research guidelines, what are the statistical review and manuscript rejection processes, and what are the common causes of rejection. So knowing that, we can actually avoid the rejection from journals and get our publications or our manuscripts accepted for publication in a journal. So statistics and the publication process. So other than the review of the manuscript for different things, one important factor is the review of the manuscript for the statistical aspect of the manuscript or the research. So journals include statistical review as a part of the peer review process, and it usually takes place at the end of the review process after the peer reviews have reviewed them, and peer reviews have shared that the paper has potential to be publishable in this journal. Then there is actually review of the statistical procedures, and that is usually done by a statistician, which is usually a member of the editorial board at high quality journals. So high quality journals have a statistician on the editorial board who takes into consideration all of the statistical aspects of the manuscript when making the final decision on the acceptance of papers or manuscripts. So journals have developed guidelines for authors, including a section on statistical aspects to make it easier for them to understand how to statistically design their manuscript. The International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, which is actually a group of the editors worldwide of well-renowned journals, and they have produced guidelines on the use of statistics in medical journals. And it has been widely adopted by the journals as well as the authors. And you can get this document from the official website of International Committee of Medical Journal Editors at www.icmje.org. Moreover, as a result of the review of the statistics, papers may be rejected for statistical reasons as well. You may have conducted very good study, but because of its poor statistical point of view, it can get rejected. So bad statistics in medical research is termed as bad science because it provides potentially flawed evidence, because if you interpret a p-value in a wrong manner, then it can actually change the finding or change the conclusion of the study. So once again, bad statistics is bad science. So considering the statistics and publication process, what are the things which are actually looked into and looked upon by the statistical reviewers, and what are the things that we should also keep in our view whenever we are preparing our manuscript? So first of all is the design features of the study. So was the objective of the study sufficiently described? So it should be clearly described at the end of your introduction. Was an appropriate study design used to achieve the objective? For example, if I'm talking about incidence, so I think prospective cohort would be a better suited study for it instead of any other study design. So was an appropriate study design used to achieve that objective? Was there a satisfactory statement given of source of subjects, that where was the subjects and sample taken from? Was a pre-study calculation of required sample size reported? Because if you give a sample size, you also have to justify that how you calculated it. So that is also very important. Now, the conduct of study. Was a satisfactory response rate achieved for your study? Because if the response rate is less, for example, for some studies such as RCTs, the minimum should be 85%, less than that, which means that the follow-up was very poor, and then there were a lot of missing values and a lot of dropouts. So that can have a negative impact on the publication process of your research. Analysis and presentation. Was there a statement adequately describe or referencing all statistical procedures used? Like, for example, which tests have been used? Were those tests appropriate for that analysis? Like, how was the normality checked? How was the groups compared, how was the association established, what were the tests used for it. So tests like, we name different tests like Kolmogorov-Smirnov, Shaprovic, independent t-test, Mann-White-New test. So these are all the statistical tests and procedures that we use for analysis of our data. Were the presentation of statistical material satisfactory? So if that is not the case, so that can also be the reason for rejection. Were the confidence interval given for the main results? Was the conclusion drawn from the statistical analysis justified, or it was not in accordance with the findings of the study and it was vague or it was misleading? Recommendation on paper. Is the paper of acceptable statistical standard for publication? So in order to make a better manuscript, there are helpful documents that are available online for free that you can use to make your manuscript better suited for that specific study design and to get better chances of your study being published in a good reputable journal. They include the CONSORT guidelines, which are known as Consolidated Standards of Reporting Trials. These are very good guidelines for reporting or way of reporting in terms of randomized controlled trials. Another is the Equator Network, also which stands for Enhancing the Quality and Transparency of Health Research. And they give guidelines on all different types of study designs. For example, trend statement for non-randomized controlled trials, such as quasi-experimental trials, starred statements, such as used for studies of diagnostic accuracy, PRISMA statement used for systematic reviews and meta-analysis, STROBE statement used for observational studies and cross-sectional surveys, and MOOS statement used for meta-analysis of observational studies in epidemiology. And this is for systemic reviews of RCTs most probably. So these are different type of guidelines that you can download, and with the help of these you can create very good manuscripts and they would have a very good chance of getting published. Now, manuscript rejection. Statistical review is wider in scope than might perhaps be expected, and a statistician will look for omissions and errors in the design, analysis, presentation, and interpretation, since any of these might invalidate the results. And manuscript rejection is the worst news an author or researcher can get. But it's also not bad actually. If you get your manuscript rejected, the review process actually teaches you a lot of things, and that's happened with me. A lot of my manuscripts got rejected, but I kept on learning from those rejections, and even those manuscripts which got rejected in the first place then got accepted into very good journals. So it is actually a process of learning. So never be afraid of manuscript rejection. But to avoid manuscript rejection, it can be helpful for you to know what are actually the common causes of rejections. So if you know the common causes of rejections, then you can actually have a better chance of avoiding a rejection. So if a study is too small or it is not able to show a difference or relationship because the sample size was too small for that specific finding or aim and objective, then that can be a cause for rejection. Sample is unrepresentative, perhaps due to a low response rate and great number of dropouts in an interventional study, for example. So that can also be a cause for rejection. Bias in the assessment or measurement. If there is bias, so that can be actually a very negative thing in a research, and to eliminate that you can actually do blinding. Blinding actually reduces the bias. Bias in comparisons, and once again by doing blinding you can decrease the bias in comparison and comparative studies such as randomized controlled trials comparing two groups. Non-significant results has been wrongly interpreted as if it meant there is no difference. So non-significant, statistically not significant, does not mean that there is no difference. There is difference, but it is not significant. So always keep that in mind and mention it appropriately. Mention it as non-significant. Don't mention it that there is no difference. No estimates of size of the effects or confidence intervals are given. So always mention the confidence intervals. And unplanned subgroup analysis or post-hoc analysis which has been overreported and the researcher has gone overboard with it, and the main results are not actually matching the aims of the study. So that can also be a cause of rejection. So that was all about this, and I hope this lecture can help you in getting your manuscripts published, and I hope you learned something new out of it. Thank you very much for watching sqadia.com, and keep on watching for more lectures like this. Thank you very much.